Jessica was a high-achieving employee at a prestigious law firm. She was known for her intelligence, work ethic, and dedication. She was also known for being a bit of a perfectionist. Jessica was always under a lot of pressure to perform. She was constantly working long hours and dealing with tight deadlines. She was also under a lot of scrutiny from her superiors. One day, Jessica started to feel overwhelmed. She was struggling to keep up with her workload. She was also starting to make mistakes. Jessica tried to ignore the stress, but it was no use. She was starting to feel mentally ill. She was having trouble sleeping. She was having trouble concentrating. She was also having anxiety attacks. Jessica knew that she needed help, but she was too afraid to ask for it. She didn't want to admit that she was struggling. She didn't want to be seen as weak. Jessica's mental health continued to deteriorate. She became increasingly withdrawn and isolated. She started to have hallucinations. She started to hear voices in her head. One day, Jessica was working late in her office. She was alone in the building. Jessica was sitting at her desk, working on a case. She looked up and saw a figure standing in the doorway. The figure was tall and thin. It was wearing a black coat and hat. Jessica stood up and backed away from her desk. "Who are you?" she asked. The figure didn't answer. It just stood there, staring at Jessica. Jessica turned and ran out of her office. She ran down the hallway and into the elevator. She pressed the button for the lobby. The elevator doors opened, and Jessica stepped out. She ran to the front door and pushed it open. She ran out of the office building and into the street. Jessica looked around, but she couldn't see the figure anywhere. Jessica started to walk home, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. As Jessica walked, she started to see things out of the corner of her eye. She would see shadows moving in the shadows. She would hear voices whispering in the wind. Jessica started to run. She ran as fast as she could, but the shadows and the voices were getting closer. Jessica turned a corner and saw the figure standing in the middle of the street. The figure was blocking her way. Jessica stopped running. She stared at the figure. The figure raised its hand and pointed at Jessica. Jessica screamed. The figure smiled. It was a cold, cruel smile. Jessica turned and ran. She ran as fast as she could, but the figure was faster. The figure caught up to Jessica and grabbed her by the arm. Jessica screamed again, but no one could hear her. The figure dragged Jessica into the shadows. Jessica was never seen again. The next day, Jessica's co-workers came to work and found her desk empty. Her computer was on, but she was nowhere to be found. Jessica's co-workers searched the office building, but they couldn't find her. They called her phone, but she didn't answer. Jessica's disappearance remained a mystery.
Next story.
The office building loomed over the quiet street, its dark windows reflecting the stars above. Inside, the only light came from the flickering neon lights of the security desk. A drunk employee named Alex staggered into the lobby. He had been out drinking with his coworkers, and he had lost track of time. He was exhausted, but he knew that he couldn't go home yet. He had to finish the report that he had been working on. Alex stumbled over to the elevator and pressed the button for his floor. The elevator doors opened, and Alex stepped inside. He pressed the button for his floor, and the elevator doors closed. The elevator began to ascend. Alex leaned against the wall and closed his eyes. He was so tired. When the elevator doors opened, Alex stepped out and walked down the hallway to his office. He unlocked the door and went inside. Alex turned on the light and sat down at his desk. He opened his laptop and started to work on his report. But Alex couldn't concentrate. He kept hearing noises in the hallway. Footsteps. Whispers. Alex got up and went to the window. He looked out at the empty street below. Alex turned away from the window and went back to his desk. He tried to work on his report, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Alex got up and went to the door. He opened it and looked out into the hallway. The hallway was empty. Alex closed the door and went back to his desk. He sat down and tried to work on his report, but he couldn't concentrate. Alex got up and went to the window again. He looked out at the empty street below. Suddenly, Alex saw something move out of the corner of his eye. He turned and saw a figure standing in the shadows. The figure was tall and thin. It was wearing a white shirt and black pants. Alex took a step back. "Who are you?" he asked. The figure didn't answer. It just stood there, staring at Alex. Alex took another step back. "What do you want?" he asked. The figure still didn't answer. It just kept staring at Alex. Alex turned and ran to his desk. He grabbed his phone and called security. "Hello?" The voice on the other end of the line said. "This is Alex," Alex said. "I'm in my office, and I think there's someone here with me." "I'll send someone up right away," the voice said. Alex hung up the phone and waited. He kept his eyes on the figure in the shadows. The figure didn't move. It just kept staring at Alex. A few minutes later, the security guard arrived. He entered Alex's office and looked around. "Is everything okay?" he asked. "I saw someone," Alex said. "They were standing in the shadows." The security guard looked around again, but he didn't see anyone. "I don't see anyone," he said. "But I saw them," Alex said. "They were right here." The security guard shook his head. "I think you're imagining things," he said. The security guard left Alex's office. Alex sat down at his desk and tried to work on his report, but he couldn't concentrate. He kept thinking about the figure in the shadows. Alex got up and went to the window again. He looked out at the empty street below. Suddenly, Alex saw the figure again. It was standing on the other side of the street, staring at him. Alex took a step back. He was terrified. The figure raised its hand and waved at Alex. Alex turned and ran to his door. He opened it and ran out into the hallway. Alex ran down the hallway and into the elevator. He pressed the button for the lobby. The elevator doors opened, and Alex stepped out. He ran to the security desk and grabbed the security guard by the arm. "There's someone out there," Alex said. "They're following me." The security guard looked at Alex. "Who is it?" he asked. "I don't know," Alex said. "But I saw them. They were standing on the other side of the street." The security guard looked out the window, but he didn't see anyone. "I don't see anyone," he said. "But I saw them," Alex said. "They were right there." The security guard sighed. "I think you're just stressed out," he said. "Why don't you go home and get some rest?" Alex shook his head. "I can't go home," he said. "They're following me."
Next story.
Alex turned and ran out of the security desk. He ran out of the office building and into the street. Alex looked around, but he couldn't see anyone. He was starting to think that he was imagining things. Alex started to walk home, but as he walked, he kept feeling like he was being watched. Alex turned around and saw the figure standing in the shadows. It was following him. Alex started to run. He ran as fast as he could, but the figure was faster. The figure caught up to Alex and grabbed him by the arm. Alex screamed. The figure pulled Alex into the shadows. Alex screamed again, but no one could hear him. Alex was never seen again. The next day, the police came to the office building to investigate Alex's disappearance. They searched the building, but they couldn't find any evidence of what had happened to him. The police interviewed the security guard, but he said that he hadn't seen anything. Alex's disappearance remained a mystery, but the people who work in the office building still talk about him. They say that his ghost haunts the building. They say that if you stay too late at night, you can see him walking down the hallways. They say that if you see him, you should run, because if you don't, he'll take you with him. Some people say that the figure that followed Alex was the ghost of the former director. The director had been murdered in the office building a few years ago. Others say that the figure was the ghost of the security guard who killed the director. The security guard had committed suicide after killing the director. Whatever the truth may be, one thing is for sure. Alex is gone, and the figure that followed him is still out there.
As a huge support, please hit like, subscribe, and maybe share your thought or any experience before going to watch another video. Thank you so much. Have a good day.